Hi, I'm Elia, just a normal human being doing my best to move through the world in alignment, to trust my inner voice and create from that place. This is a podcast where I share what I'm learning. Sometimes I'll share a somatic journey that I made just for you. Sometimes it's a raw reflection on what's moving in my life. And sometimes it's a conversation with someone who I'm learning from. I'm not here to present a perfect path. I'm sharing insights, experiments, and ideas that are helping me live a little better, one day at a time. Let's jump into the episode. Hi, welcome back to another Inner Voice Diaries. I am in my new house that I combined with my partner, and today is my birthday, and wanted to just share a little bit more about what my relationship with my inner voice is like. What is the inner voice? So last week, I shared a big mindset shift that happened for me. And it's not one that oh, I found this analogy and poof, it shifted. It took a few days of this simmering and percolating and really allowing myself to zoom out. I use this rain on the sidewalk example. You can listen to the first Inner Voice Diaries, as well as I made a little journey to help you experience that shift yourself if that is something that you're wanting. And like zoom out and see, okay, there might be this one part of my life that I've really been trying to take aligned action on and work on, that my mind still isn't really happy with the progress. Or I can look up and see the rain on where it's raining everywhere, all of the other squares of the sidewalk, all over the neighborhood. And it really took me into a place of alignment, embodied presence, like kind of a lot of excitement, energy. So today, as you know, all of the craziness of moving has completed, there's been all sorts of emotions of days where we have all three kids, days that we just have one kid, day we have two kids just because of our co-parenting, and emotions from the different kids. But overall, it's been beautiful. It's been really cool to see our families start meshing together, and the kids getting to play in the backyard and ride bikes down the street with the other neighbors. And we're still a few blocks from my son's school, so getting to walk to school with him has been really, really special. And so today I wanted to talk about like when I first started hearing my inner voice, because the inner voice has always been there. And even if you've never heard your inner voice, it's been there. It is there. And so the reason, like, I started listening to my inner voice with, it took the help of someone facilitating me to help me hear it, because I didn't really know any of what this meant. And even as I was doing inner voice sessions with my teacher, Bella, I didn't necessarily believe what I was hearing was my inner voice. My mind was not convinced at all. I was open to it though. And so the reason that I wanted to start hearing it was because I did not like myself. I did not enjoy being inside myself. And I didn't think that I was really allowed to like myself. And there were so many things in my life that I wanted to change, and I wanted to try something new. And especially after hearing this teacher speak for probably about a decade is what it took for me to give it a try and invest financially in myself in that way. Definitely like the best money I've ever spent to have that peace inside myself. She helped me start to hear like this loving, kind, accepting voice that was already inside myself. One of the things, I think yeah, Sarah in our community, I feel like we kind of experienced this together, because I was wondering like why is it that I feel like a lot of trauma has been healed for me because of the inner voice. And what it is when I hear my own inner voice speak the truth about where I'm at, where I'm coming from, and like, even like specific trauma is telling me that it isn't my fault. Here's what here's what I'm learning. And hearing your inner voice tell you in its own words especially when it's words that your mind wouldn't think to create. That's one of the things that cues me of, okay, this is my inner voice, is when it's something that my mind would never think of. And so sometimes I will even ask my inner voice to help my mind understand something. And so when you hear that voice inside you telling you the truth, it's so much different than hearing a therapist or your friend say that situation was not your fault, you didn't deserve it. When you hear it from yourself, it lands differently. And I can always go back over and over and over anytime I want. My inner voice isn't going to get tired of me asking the same questions over and over. And it helps to get that repetition. And so my relationship with my inner voice has definitely changed over time. At first, it was really, really skeptical. And then I had sort of this moment of like emergence and alignment where I was like, yes, like this is it. I want my inner voice to tell me what to do for literally everything and would ask it, like, what should I do today? What should I do tomorrow? And my inner voice at one point gave me some pretty wild answers and wild directions. And then there's been moments of, okay, I followed all of that. I went on this wild journey that took me to other countries and cost like my inner voices, it got expensive taste. And to come back and be like, okay, is everything in my life perfect? I thought that if I followed my inner voice, everything would just fall into place. But now, a few years down the road, I always come back to my inner voice. Like something in me guides me there. I don't think that specifically inner voice is the only way to experience alignment. I think there's a ton of ways, but for some reason, the inner voice specifically resonates with me. And I think it's because it's helped me learn to trust myself so much more and not outsource my power to other people. I still struggle to trust myself at times and I still ask for advice. I still have a therapist. I still check myself constantly, but I can choose to listen to my inner voice or I cannot. And there isn't a punishment. There's no like coming from my like high control belief system background to this, at first I'm like, okay, will I be punished if I don't follow what my inner voice says? Absolutely not. The inner voice is kind of like giving you a lantern to the most aligned path for you. The inner voice, at least for me, has told me there are no mistakes, just learning. I get to choose whether I want to do it the way that my mind wants or do it the way the inner voice wants. And there's no punishment. So then why listen to the inner voice if there's no punishment? Listening to my inner voice has taught me so much about myself. I listen to it because there's so much joy. And I like to use the word magic because I think I want my life to feel magical and flowy. And I have, still this perfectionist view of how I want to feel every single day. And that's why I go to Leela, my safe place, which actually just created a journey that I think I'll probably post either right before or after this episode. I go into my safe place and I can have all of that immediately. And then I go back into my life and I notice the bits of my life that make me feel the way that my safe place makes me feel. The magic of your safe place is experiencing what it's like to already have the things you want and feeling that in your body. And so that's it. It can be really simple, but there are so many things that I've been told before, and I continue to experience them differently over the years. The three practices that we do during our Friday somatic journeys, quieting the mind, feeling our emotions in our body, and hearing our inner voice. Those things, like they haven't gotten old for me. I don't know that they ever will. So I will keep doing them I don't know that they ever will get old, but and like that process of helping other people have that freedom and joy and magic in their life and experience what it's like to have your inner voice help you heal is what I love to do. I honestly want to be spending most of my time on. So this week, I always get really frustrated with myself when I experience like somatic emotions in my body so much more quickly than I used to. And so this week I ran over a screw with my car and I could just feel, I felt like inside of me was just like blowing up. I could feel so much anxiety because I know how to move through all of this and I know what it's like to feel grounded and aligned. I get really frustrated that I'm not just like always chill. And I think that is that perfectionist bit where if I look at the situation and how I handled it fine. Yes, I got stressed. And I think it's more like the feeling inside my body of like that I hate, that I just want to go away and never come back. And that's some of the softening that I'm working on in my own mind and in my own self. I asked my inner voice today, inner voice, what do you want me to notice about myself? And my inner voice said, your growth, how much bigger you are in the world now that you're not constantly beating yourself up all the time. Your energy is magnetic and beautiful, and you are lighting up the people around you and give them permission to do the same. But if I look at what this past year has been, a lot of it really has been focusing on my own inner work, my own relationship with my inner voice, as well as helping people do the same. And that's exactly what's happening. And so I love that. I asked my inner voice, where have I been softening? And it said softening the mind and perfectionism, which I've shared about. It's a different life than I used to have. And today is my 32nd birthday. I used to get kind of stressed about birthdays, stressed about getting old. And I think now I feel really excited because every year I feel more and more joy inside myself. This year has been a lot of spending time by myself. It has been a lot of shedding of relationships that no longer serve me and shedding of relationships that, I wasn't being treated as well as I could have been, living in a place where I feel at peace and have the space to create and rest and have people to my home. Even on Sunday, having a barbecue with friends over is something that's brand new with a yard that I can invite people into and my kids can have play dates. I feel really excited for what is coming this year. It's very exciting. And so each year, I know that that is going to grow and grow and grow and making shifts in my life and allowing life to meet me where I'm at, the vibrations that I'm putting out there, the intentions that I'm putting into motion, the aligned actions that I'm taking in order to make that happen, while also holding loosely to what that endpoint is. Because if I were to, like 10 years ago, say that here's the picture of the life that I want and hold so tightly to that that anything outside of it wouldn't have made me happy. If I have that mindset, I will always be disappointed because where my inner voice has guided me is somewhere that I would have been not okay with 10 years ago. But the the shifts that I have made in myself and softening the mind and expanding my awareness, falling in love with myself for the first time has made it so where I am now is far better than what me 10 years ago would have planned. It's an exciting time. I feel very lucky to be alive every day and want to help other people feel that. That is one of my major life goals is to help as many people as who want to feel that feeling in the morning of being so excited to be alive. And not every day is like that for me. I have days that it's hard. I still have mental health waves that come in, but I now have all of the tools to get myself out of it. And I've actually found that there are times where I want other people to help me. I want my therapist to help pull me out of it. I've noticed that when I stop trying and try and lean on other people, it helps to hear other people and have those people in my life, but it doesn't shift it. I have to decide that I want to shift it. And nobody is better at getting me into alignment than me. And that's a lot of responsibility. And there are times that I just want someone else to do it for me because my life has been a lot of work and growth and change. And I also know that like I'm in the thick of it. I'm gonna have 3 kids under my roof. My son is 6. And so I had a moment this morning where I think my inner voice was talking to me while I was in bed. And kind of showing me pictures and I think a lot of it was like feelings, like a feeling of what my life was. And I think like these next 10 years from what I received in those moments is going to be a lot of learning and growth, being busy, experimenting, trying things. I think that progress will be slow and maybe even financially and career-wise, that might be a slow and steady journey. But when my son is 18, he's 6 now and I'm 32. Let me see if I can do this math. He will be 18 in 12 years. So in 12 years, I will be 44. And my partner's kids will also be out of the house. So like my inner voice was like, you have so much time. This is the time that life is busy, but once your son is out of the house, that you've got quite a while to really just relish in the life that you've built and the time that you will have back because I got married at 21, had my son when I was 25, and there's always been a part of me that was bitter that I never got to experience being an adult before I had a kid. Okay, so I got a few questions from you guys around the inner voice. So, what are the different ways that you hear your inner voice? Sometimes I'll just ask a question and get a feeling. Sometimes I get a mental picture. Sometimes I can feel kind of the mind getting in the way, which I'll jump into that later. But the ways that I like intentionally talk to my inner voice, sometimes I will write. I find lately writing has kind of come back into resonance. Sometimes I will open a voice note on my phone and just start recording and talk back and forth. That way I can go back and listen to it. I can go back and write it down, or the voice notes will transcribe it so then I can copy and paste it into a journal page if I'd like. I have journals filled with back and forth between my inner voice and I, and it's lovely. How does the inner voice respond to fear versus joy versus confusion? The inner voice says there's nothing to be afraid of, but can hold space for the fear that I do experience. And when I find fear coming up in my body, I will ask the inner voice, is this something that is safe and ready to be moved? And usually the answer is yes. But there's times that I have a lot of resistance and I choose not to do it right then. How does the inner voice respond to joy? The inner voice is always joyful. And I feel like the inner voice is what has helped me feel joy the most. It kind of can point it out. Where is it in my body? So right now, if I do a scan, the inner voice, I feel joy. Yeah, like in my chest, in my face. The inner voice helps clarify confusion for me. Oftentimes, my mind will be confused. The inner voice will have answers, and sometimes even afterwards. Because if I ask my inner voice for wisdom on something and it says, just let go, everything will be fine. Sometimes I'll ask follow-up questions of how. Oftentimes, it's really the resistance in me that is keeping me from actually experiencing the clarity that my inner voice has for me. And so sometimes it just takes a little bit of repetition of coming back and being like, okay, help me get clarity here. Help me experience this. And I think that's what happened with the rain on the sidewalk. My inner voice had said, like, it reminded me of this analogy from a teacher of mine, told me to try and shift my mind. And I did try, and it did not happen that day. But over time, it did shift. So keep at it, keep going into yourself. And yeah, just start listening. It's beautiful. How do you know it's your inner voice and not just your mind? That's the one that I always was like, how do I know if I can trust this voice? I don't want to trust this voice and end up homeless. And I still have that voice, that question in my head a lot. It helps as you're learning to have somebody help facilitate, not lead questions, not tell you what is the inner voice or the mind. One of the main things that I do is I ask my inner voice. When I hear an answer, if I'm feeling unsure, I will say, inner voice, was that you or the mind? And listen. That helps. The other thing you can do is ask the inner voice the same question again. Sometimes I will take a few exhales, especially if I can feel the mind tight gripping, calm it. And as you exhale, that's when you listen. And you can wait an extra beat and listen. Sometimes we follow our inner voice and things do not work out the way that we would think it would by following our inner voice. So I wanted to share a very specific example of that. This was about 9 months ago now. I had a really awesome, I felt like she was my sister. She had just been battling cancer and has twins who were born at 23 weeks and survived the NICU. And I had been going out and taking care of her a lot over the past few years. So she'd wanted to get back into life and work and said, yes, come visit. She wanted to do a project together. And I was like, okay, cool. I will come. It was my idea. And then I asked my inner voice, should I go? And my inner voice said yes. So I went there. I was going to be there for less than 48 hours. And when I got there, she had made other plans. Like I flew across the country, and this was the first time that she and I were actually going to get to hang out and create things together. And she just like, life got too busy. I expressed hurt about that, me flying across the country, especially like after all that I had done to take care of her. To make other plans when I visited was really, really hurtful to me. I think I mostly expressed sadness and hurt over it. It ended up ending our friendship. I ended up going home early, and then it would just seem like facing up to friendship was not something that she wanted to do. And like she's going through her own things, and honestly, I have nothing but love for her. But when I got home, oh, I just felt so broken-hearted over losing a close friend. And my inner voice told me to go on this journey. It was expensive. I felt like I wasted my time and lost friends that I could have kept. I don't know, for months and months and months, I would ask my inner voice, what was that? Eventually, the answer that I got was that I had been investing so much time, money, and energy into this friendship. If I paused and looked back and just see it through rose-colored glasses, I could see that that was a friendship that was one way, primarily. I was investing and she was not. And what my inner voice gave me was the gift of not having to continue to invest in a friendship that was not investing back in me. And that felt like a really, really hard way to learn that lesson, but I don't know that I could have walked away from that friendship ever if something like that hadn't happened. And it was really hard. It was just so hard to process all of that and to lose somebody who I guess I thought loved me like a sister and realized that that really wasn't true. And so that's one of the things that has happened that I go back to when I follow my inner voice and my mind is kind of like, this isn't what we thought it would be. We want ease, abundance, flow, alignment all the time. It takes time, especially as you are learning to have this relationship with your inner voice. There might be some shedding of people, not necessarily to say, hey, closing the door forever. The door is not closed forever for that friendship. Honestly, she closed it as well. It's not aligned at the moment. It's also really interesting to be able to walk away from a friendship still having full love and like, yes, hurt. And I think I've moved through all of the feelings of anger and frustration now. I mean, I think occasionally I think about her and hope she's doing well and miss her energy because she's such a beautiful, bubbly person. But I am so much happier. I'm happy in life. And I think if I look at what is the reason that I am happy, it's because the friends that I do have around me are ones that are aligned with my energy that I put in. And so just know that as you go on this journey, there might be times that you end up having to step away from friendships while you start to build that vibration of alignment in yourself. And that's okay. I've had a lot of relationships that have had phases of breaking apart and then coming back together. Rebuilding those relationships is something that I have a lot of experience in as well after all of the hurt. I've rebuilt my relationship with my parents even. And it's beautiful. Just because something feels hard right now doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way. So, anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful week and may something align effortlessly for you today.